From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Happy New Year, the last day of 2024. Who would have thunk it? It feels like just a few days ago we started off on this 2024 journey together, and here we are almost 365 days later, wrapping up a extremely eventful year, a groundbreaking year in all aspects. So thank you all so much for being part of the CyberHub Podcast community this year, for tuning in, for subscribing, for liking, for your support in every single way possible. It is from the bottom of my heart that I say thank you. Wishing you all a very amazing 2025. Hoping all of your dreams, wishes all come true this year. Thank you again so much. So we've got a packed show for all y'all today, in case you've been missing the headlines. If you're really been taken off the whole holiday and you're just kind of tuning in today, buckle in. We've got some more news around China, and we've got a whole lot more vulnerabilities to talk about today. So tune in, grab your cup of coffee. I've got my double espresso this morning. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Oh, brilliant. Great espresso. CyberHubPodcast.com. You can go subscribe, get exclusive content there, and that's the only place where you can support our podcast, by the way, FYI. It's the only place where you can support our podcast and get exclusive content, including my Saturday morning articles, which I got to say, I'm getting a lot of great feedback on. All right, let's start off with the US Treasury now informing Congress of a major cybersecurity incident after they allege Chinese attackers remotely access workstations and unclassified documents after compromising what they say is a cloud-based service operated by Beyond Trust. So Beyond Trust had a huge vulnerability, right? It's practically a 0-day, working around the clock, get that patched. Well, the first victim's coming through, and the Chinese wasted no time. Once they've discovered the vulnerability, the Chinese immediately went after a high-value target. And by the way, that's what separates kind of the Chinese way of operating as a threat actor and as a nation state to a cybercrime gang, or even Iran and Russia. Iran and Russia for, I know, Russia, everywhere Russia, but there's China's the greater threat, not Russia when it comes to that. And this one specifically just highlights that, because a second ago, if you were watching the screen and you saw the homepage of our website, I just read about Salt Typhoon and what that actually means, right? So there's a whole lot to it. Iran is in financial ruins. Iran is on its back heels. It's on the ropes, and a knockout punch, anytime it comes, will drown that leadership in Iran. China, on the other hand, because of the way Xi Jinping holds and the CCP holds down China, it's very, very different, and their goals are very, very different. They continuously want to weaken the United States. They continuously want to grab data in the United States, and then they use that data as part of their larger diplomacy and espionage kind of game plan. So apparently, according to Aditi Hardikar, who's the Assistant Secretary for Management at Treasury, he says, with access to the stolen keys, the threat actors was able to override the service's security, remotely access certain Treasury DO user workstation, and access certain unclassified documents maintained by those users. They didn't provide any detail, but they did attribute it to China, meaning they already knew China was there. Now, mind you, this was 3 weeks ago, just about. So it's likely that they were able to get attribution very quickly. Earlier this month, Beyond Trust did release patches for a critical severity vulnerability, that's CVE 2024-12356, in its privileged remote access and remote support products, and they were being exploited in the wild. At the time, on December 5th, a root cause analysis into the remote support SaaS issue identified an API key for remote support SaaS has been compromised. And again, this goes to the idea of managing identities, right? It goes to the idea of, we hear NHI, right? Non-human identities and human identities. All identities need to be treated equal, right? Not biting off of something here, but all identities need to be treated equal. You can't ignore one and do the other. And we have to really change the way we view how we manage these non-human identities like these API keys. The rotation of those keys has got to become a new main pack. We've got to change the way we do security in 2025 in all aspects. In all aspects, the way we practice security thus far has shown that historically it's very, very challenging to thwart off an attack when you have a 0-day in your security product. That's just the thing there. You buy these security tools to secure an environment, and they provide 99% of the time the job you need them to do. And then that 1% of the time, it does require a extra push to get it done. This was one of those cases where I think, unfortunately, we weren't able to get to it on time. We moved to Cyberhaven. So Cyberhaven over the Christmas break had a cybersecurity incident. Now, they've tried to downplay it. They said it was only an hour. I've seen some of their chat stuff, people that have posted stuff, absolutely infuriated with the company for not being truthful and honest. So here's the thing that I'm going to give anyone in cybersecurity. Transparency is the number one key to maintaining business. And I'll explain this. When SolarWinds happened back in 2020, say what you say about Microsoft. Microsoft was the biggest victim of the SolarWinds breach. Not SolarWinds. SolarWinds was the method. Microsoft was the target. They got into Microsoft's source code. They got into every single aspect of Microsoft's life. Microsoft was a huge SolarWinds shop. And the Microsoft approach was they put up a live page on their website updating as they were going through the investigation and as they were deploying patches, as they were deploying fixes to those different products, to those different tools and compromised applications that they had. They were updating it. I called it at the time the Microsoft doctrine. And I was hoping that that would carry on to every single major breach that would happen thereafter, where it would kind of be like a live ticker, almost like a live tweet update of everything going on. And that hasn't really carried fruitful. But there's the case to be made for it, by the way. If you look at it from a business perspective, Microsoft stock didn't go down when that happened. Microsoft stocks only went up. Investors only had more trust in the company because they knew what they were doing. That transparency supported everything else. Now, there's a lot of complaints on Microsoft, but that one action from Microsoft was very, very effective. So saying that, Cyberhaven obviously has not read that. I'd suggest they read my Microsoft doctrine. It's available on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com and use it next time this happens. So one of their employees was phished. They were phished with their admin credentials, meaning when they went to log in, that person had admin credentials. That's what they used for phishing. Now, again, bad identity management hygiene. Then apparently what they said was about an hour is now turning out to be just more than 24 hours where the attack was discovered with the malicious extension. So yesterday we saw about an hour. They said this was only up for about an hour and we took it down. Now they say it's more than 24 hours. As this goes along, they'll have to be a bit more honest about what actually happened there. During that time, the malicious extension iteration was distributed to users who had the automatic update feature enabled, putting them at risk of sensitive information theft. And here's the dilemma for every cybersecurity practitioner. Automatic updates are great. We love them, right? Who doesn't? Because at the end of the day, the people who are lazy to patch, it doesn't require a lot of work. And if it gets it done, it gets it done. And then you have something like what happened with Falcon, right? And CrowdStrike. And now this, where an automatic update compromised or not properly tested, pushed out, crashes. This is what happened here for Cyberhaven, right? People had the automatic update because they didn't think much of it. And it just so happened. So John Tuckner, who's the Secure Annex founder, appears to be linked to, says this attack is linked to a longer lasting campaign in which at least 29 Chrome extensions were compromised, potentially affecting 2.5 million users. He's saying there are some keyloggers in there, some screen captures, a whole bunch of stuff there. I've seen other people like from Nudge Security, Jaime Velasco. He put out a whole bunch of stuff on the Cyberhaven extension. So did a few others. So kind of looking at that, understand that these are significant. And again, just because you have a cybersecurity tool doesn't mean you're safe. That cybersecurity tool requires the same maintenance as any other thing you have in your environment. And that's so critical for people to actually like take that in and make that part of their plan. Your security tool requires maintenance just like everything else. Let's move on to some vulnerabilities here, where a security snafu at a Volkswagen subsidiary exposed vehicle information and ownership details to around 800,000 Volkswagen manufactured autos in Europe, including precise location data and owner profiles. The data came to light after a whistleblower reported a vulnerability in the cloud storage accounts of Volkswagen subsidiary Carride, which provides vehicle performance, infotainment, and assistant driving software solutions to automotive brands owned by Volkswagen. The German auto multinational makes branded cars that also do Skoda, which if in the US, we don't have Skoda, but if we did, I'd totally be driving one. My brother-in-law has one in Israel. They're just phenomenal cars. Audis, and obviously Porsche. The vulnerabilities reported by the German white hat cybersecurity group Chaos Computer Club and Der Spiegel enabled widespread access to data collected from hundreds of thousands of connected cars across Europe, including 300,000 in Germany, 80,000 in Norway, 68,000 in Sweden, 63,000 cars in the UK. The major of the vehicles, numbering 460,000, were manufactured by Volkswagen and Seat, the company's Spanish subsidiary. So, again, there you have it. Cars now have technology. That technology is interconnected. That data is readily available. It's stored somewhere. And that's why you should drive a 1982 Ford F-150. Sorry, a 1980 Silverado, whatever, right? After the Ford fiasco yesterday, I don't know that I want to support Ford. All right. Microsoft is forcing .NET developers to quickly update their apps and developer pipelines so they don't use the Azure Edge.NET domains to install .NET components, as the domain will soon be unavailable due to bankruptcy and imminent shutdown of the CDN provider Igio. So specifically the domains .NET CLI.AzureEdge.net and .NET builds.azureedge.net will be taken offline in the next few months. So you want to make sure you get those updated. That CDN is going out of business. The cybersecurity agency for the great country of Singapore issued 3 warnings around 3 different vulnerabilities for Apache. Those are CVEs 2024-43441, 45387, and 52046. 43441 affects the Apache Huge Graph server, a graph database server widely used for managing complex data relationships. It would allow an attacker to bypass authentication mechanisms, potentially granting unauthorized access to sensitive data. It affects all versions prior to 1.5.0. An exploitation would allow a malicious actor to gain access to restricted systems without providing valid credentials. That's a low complexity attack there. Another vulnerability is 45387. That's Apache traffic control. That's for managing and optimizing CDN. That vulnerability specifically impacts traffic ops, a key component of it from versions 8.0.0 to 8.0.1. And attackers could exploit the flaw to perform SQL injection. We talked about that a few days ago on the show. The third critical vulnerability is CVE 2024-52046, and it's present in Apache Mina, network application framework used in a wide range of applications. The vulnerability stems from improper handling of Java deserialization protocols. You want to make sure you get those updated. The Mina, the Apache vulnerability in Mina affects versions prior to 2.0, 0.27, 2.1.10, and 2.2.24. So a bunch of ways to mitigate this. You can obviously view those here. 3 ways, the 3 methods to restrict class deserialization, and that will all be available on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. Another Apache Airflow integration. Researchers uncovered 3 security weaknesses in Microsoft's Azure Data Factory Apache Airflow integration that, when exploited successfully, could allow an attacker to gain the ability to conduct various covert actions, including data exfil and malware deployment within the Azure Kubernetes service clusters, according to Palo Alto Unit 42. The vulnerabilities, albeit classified as low, are listed as a misconfigured Kubernetes RBAC and Airflow clustered, misconfigured secret handling of Azure's internal Geneva service, and weak authentication for Geneva. Besides obtaining unauthorized access, an attacker could take advantage of the flaws in the Geneva service to potentially tamper with log data or send fake logs, rising suspicious there. Ernesto's Kia is always connected to Big Brother. Kia and Hyundai, by the way, had a whole issue where you could actually steal the car with a USB port. Ernesto, just keep that in mind. And the FTC is still investigating that one, and so should the Department of Transportation. Infotainment, Paul saying to infotainment, though, oof, this is a manufactured OEM, not even off the shelf. Some people get to upgrade to, indeed. And it's hard to upgrade. In most cases, by the way, FYI, if you upgrade, your infotainment, you void your warranty. Just so you know, check that out. I'm in the market for a car. Kid you not, was shopping around. And if I wanted to upgrade any infotainment of any car I wanted to get, it would void the manufacturer warranty on the car. Just so you know, everything else. So they're like, if you touch the infotainment, you void everything else on the car. So if your transmission goes bad and the car's still under warranty, boo-hoo, too bad. So sad. All right, for 2025, we need to start paying attention at U.S. water utilities. They're underfunded, understaffed, and they've got huge vulnerabilities that we know threat actors, specifically Iranians, are going after at this time, but that's not going to be the only one. We're probably going to see more of that happening in 2025. Most of the attacks landed on the softest of targets, small water utilities, without any security expertise or resources. Now, here's the thing about water, folks, in the United States. It's a county issue. It's a city issue. And every single one of us has a way to impact that. Get off your tail. Go speak to someone. Help them get this thing done. Otherwise, you're going to be running to grab water when water goes offline and you can't shower or you can't cook without that essential water, or go live on a farm and have your own well. That's another option too, by the way. So water on the rise in the attack. And finally, final story this morning, Germany charged 3 Russian suspects of spying and surveilling military sites in Germany. The suspects, all residents of the Bavarian town Bayreuth, are 40-year-old Dieter S. with Alexander J. and Alex D. They were all Russian-German nationals accused of spying for the Kremlin. Prosecutors allege the sabotage was designed to undermine Germany's military support for the Ukraine. They also reportedly scouted potential targets in Bavaria, including the U.S. military base where Ukrainian soldiers are being trained, as well as arms manufacturing facilities, potentially trying to attempt the Ukrainian supply chain. So there's that there. Russia does not rest, and still spies, still a thing. By the way, in Israel, the Israelis uncovered the 13th Iranian spy ring in Israel, where they were essentially either Israeli citizens were actually cooperating with the Iranians, knowing they were Iranians, or were being fooled and essentially social engineered to send information to Iranian handlers abroad. 13 different rings have been uncovered since October 7th. 13. The human element never pauses. Yes, we're in cyber. Yes, cyber's technology, but cyber is business and cyber is everything. And like in business, the human element is just as critical. So focus on the human element as you go into 2025. The human element cannot be underestimated at all. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back next year. My one dad joke for the show today. See y'all next year, January 1st, 2025, with a whole new show. Obviously, we've rebranded the show this year, so we're really excited about that, and a whole lot new content coming your way this year as we kind of work to really increase our quality and quantity of content. Thank you all for tuning in. Happy New Year to all y'all. I wish you an amazing, amazing 2025. Until next year, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.